So what really makes a winner? Is it just pure skill? Is it strategy? Or is there something else entirely? The cricket rivalry between India and New Zealand is the perfect case study for this question. It's a contest that isn't really defined by bad blood, but by this incredible tactical chess match and a whole lot of mutual respect. So let's deconstruct what actually decides a sporting contest, and we'll use this unique rivalry as our guide.
Here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll get into the science of winning in cricket. Then, we'll take a trip back in time, tracing the 70-year history of this rivalry. From there, we'll zoom way in on a single explosive T20 match to see these ideas in action, before pulling back out to look at the high-stakes data from major tournaments. And finally, we'll look beyond the boundary line to see what this rivalry tells us about the bigger picture.
All right, first up, what are those hidden factors that make or break a match? To really get a handle on this rivalry, we first need to build our toolkit, Look at the core things that shape any game of cricket.
This is the big question, isn't it? When you look past the runs and the wickets, what are the hidden forces that are really at play? Well, it turns out research gives us a pretty clear roadmap, and sometimes it can predict the outcome before a single ball is even bowled.
And here they are. It really breaks it down perfectly. You see, every match is this complex equation. You've got the physical stuff, like the pitch and the weather. Then there's the pure strategy, like the toss, and of course, the raw talent of the team. And this is crucial, you can't forget the intangibles, that psychological pressure of past records, the roar of the home crowd, and that electric current form a player can get into. These are the tools we're going to use.
So, with that framework in our back pocket, let's apply it to our case study. We're shifting from theory to reality, diving right into the 70-year history of a rivalry built on skill, not on politics.
And you can trace it all the way back to that very first Test series in 1955. That's what set the tone. This was never a rivalry born out of some big conflict. It was born from a shared love for the game's details. It was about patience, strategy, and pure technical excellence, right from the very beginning.
This timeline just lays it all out, showing how the rivalry literally grew up with the game of cricket itself. The 50s to the 70s, that was all about slow, defensive test matches. Then the 80s just exploded with these legendary all-rounders like Kapil Dev and Richard Hadley facing off. The 90s brought us the ODI era, with masters like Tendulkar and Crowe. And now, it's a high-octane, data-driven game with modern legends like Kohli and Williamson at the helm.
Okay, now let's zoom all the way in. We're going from 70 years of history down to a single, breathtaking moment. This is where that idea we talked about, current form, becomes something you can see and feel. It becomes absolutely unstoppable. Picture this. It's Nagpur, January 21st, 2026, the first T20 International of the series. The energy in the stadium is electric, and one player is about to put on an absolute show. The live commentary just captured it perfectly. The southpaw they were talking about was the Indian opener Abhishek Sharma, and what he was about to do was, well, it was just incredible. He just absolutely blazed his way to a massive score, 84 runs.
But here's the crazy part, it's how he got them. He did it in just 35 balls.
That's an unbelievable strike rate, and it was all built on this foundation of just pure power. He smashed 8 massive sixes that just demoralized the bowlers. And here's the thing, this wasn't just a great knock, it was historic. He literally set a new world record. He became the very first player in history to score 8 T20 International 50s in 25 balls or less. It is the perfect example of one player in peak form completely changing the game. Okay, so let's pull back from that single moment of brilliance and look at the bigger picture. When the pressure is at its absolute highest, on the world's biggest stage, in those ICC tournaments, who actually has the upper hand?
Well, the raw numbers on this slide tell a pretty startling story. Across 19 of these massive high-stakes games in ICC events, India has only won 5. New Zealand, they've won a whopping 12. For two teams that are so often neck and neck, something clearly changes when a world trophy is on the line.
Let's just let that sink in. New Zealand's dominance here is undeniable. India has never, not once, beaten them in a T20 World Cup match. And of course, who could forget? It was New Zealand who beat India in that final to become the very first World Test champions in 2021. It seems the Kiwis are truly India's bogey team when it comes to knockout cricket.
Okay, for our final section, let's zoom out one last time, all the way up. Because this intense battle on the field, it doesn't happen in a bubble. It's actually part of a much bigger and surprisingly cooperative relationship between these two countries.
And this is where the story takes a really fascinating twist. On the cricket pitch, you've got this packed schedule for 2026, promising more fierce competition. But at the exact same time, off the pitch, the two countries have just signed a historic free trade agreement. We're talking about a whole new era of cooperation.
And this isn't some small deal. The total trade in goods and services between India and New Zealand hit $2.4 billion in 2024. That shows a really deep and fast-growing economic connection.
And the real crown jewel of this whole agreement? New Zealand is giving 100% duty-free market access for all Indian exports. That's a massive economic victory for India, and it's built on partnership, not rivalry. It's just a powerful reminder that sometimes your fiercest competitors on the field can be your closest allies off of it.
Which really leaves us with this final thought. The India-New Zealand story, from the raw power of a single innings to the crushing weight of a world final, all the way to a multi-billion-dollar trade deal, it really shows us that a sporting rivalry is never just a game, is it? It's more like a mirror, reflecting the complicated, competitive, and ultimately cooperative world that we all live in.